They want you to believe the moon's dark side is nothing but craters and silence. A dead, frozen wasteland that holds no secrets. I know better. I was there in October 2023, part of a classified mission to the darkest region of the lunar dark side, where sunlight never reaches and shadows stretch for eternity. What we discovered in those ancient craters wasn't just unexpected. It was impossible. And NASA has been lying to you about it ever since. My name is Dr. Marcus Webb, and I'm violating every oath and security clearance I ever signed because silence is no longer an option. What sleeps in the darkness of the moon's dark side is waking up. And when it fully awakens, I'm not sure humanity will survive what comes next. The mission brief was mundane by design. Establish a research outpost in the Aitken Basin, the moon's deepest and oldest impact crater, perpetually shrouded in darkness on the dark side. Our objective: study the exposed lunar mantle, search for water ice in permanently shadowed regions, and test equipment for future deep space missions. A 6-month deployment with a crew of 4. Commander Daniel Price, Engineer Lieutenant Amy Chen, Geologist Dr. James Reeves, and myself as the mission's astrophysicist. We launched in September 2023 from a facility that doesn't appear on any public NASA roster. The entire mission was classified under a designation I'd never encountered, Project Darkwatch. When I asked Commander Price about the unusual secrecy, he simply said some missions required discretion due to geopolitical sensitivities. At the time, I accepted that explanation. Now I understand it was the first of many lies. The journey to the moon was unremarkable. 3 days of standard transit, constant communication with Houston, routine systems checks. We entered lunar orbit and began our descent toward the dark side, watching Earth disappear behind the moon's gray horizon. That's when the silence truly began. No radio contact with Earth. No GPS. No satellite coverage. Just us, alone in the darkness, exactly as planned. The landing site was in a crater within the Aitken Basin, a place that hadn't seen direct sunlight in billions of years. Our module touched down smoothly, powerful LED arrays piercing the absolute blackness around us. Outside the viewport, I could see the landscape illuminated in harsh white light, jagged rocks, steep crater walls, and shadows so deep they seemed to swallow the light itself. "Home sweet home," Lieutenant Chen muttered, her voice tight with barely concealed unease. The habitat assembly went smoothly. By the end of day 2, we had our pressurized dome erected, life support systems online, and the nuclear power unit humming steadily. Commander Price established our communication schedule. A relay satellite would pass over our position twice daily, giving us narrow windows to transmit data and receive instructions from Houston. Between those windows, we were completely isolated. It was during the first week that Dr. Reeves found the anomaly. He'd been conducting seismic surveys, using explosive charges to map subsurface structures. The readings confused him. Instead of the expected layers of regolith and fractured bedrock, his instruments detected massive voids beneath the crater floor. Caverns that shouldn't exist in the moon's geology. "Look at this," he said, spreading the data across our shared screens in the common area. "These chambers are enormous. Some of them are nearly a kilometer across. And they're not natural formations." "What do you mean, not natural?" Commander Price leaned forward, studying the colorful cross-sections. "The geometry is too regular. Too precise. These look more like tunnels than lava tubes." Dr. Reeves zoomed in on a particular section. "And here, see this? There's something down there. Some kind of structure with a different density signature than the surrounding rock." My pulse quickened. "How deep?" "About 200 meters beneath us." The room fell silent. We all understood the implications. Lieutenant Chen was the first to voice what we were all thinking. Could it be from a previous mission? Something the Soviets or Chinese left behind? Dr. Reeves shook his head. The lunar regolith accumulation around these formations suggests they're ancient. Millions of years old, at least. Commander Price's expression remained carefully neutral, but I noticed his jaw tighten. Send the data in our next transmission window. Let Houston advise on how to proceed. But when that transmission window arrived 6 hours later, something was wrong. Our communication link crackled with interference, the signal degrading rapidly. Commander Price managed to transmit our findings, but Houston's response was garbled, almost unintelligible. I caught fragments: do not investigate, maintain position, await further. Then silence. Atmospheric interference. I suggested, knowing it was impossible. The moon has no atmosphere. That was more than interference, Lieutenant Chen said quietly. That sounded like jamming. Commander Price tried repeatedly to re-establish contact, but every attempt met with the same result: static, fragments of distorted voices, and then nothing. When the next scheduled transmission window arrived 12 hours later, we couldn't connect at all. The relay satellite seemed to be functioning, but no signal was getting through in either direction. We were alone. That night, as I lay in my sleeping quarters staring at the curved ceiling of our habitat, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The isolation of the moon's dark side was absolute in a way I hadn't anticipated. On Earth, even in the most remote locations, you could sense the presence of life, the subtle rhythms of a living planet. Here, there was nothing. Just silence so complete it felt oppressive, like a physical weight pressing down on my chest. I must have dozed off eventually, because I woke suddenly to a sound that shouldn't exist. A low-frequency hum, barely perceptible, vibrating through the habitat structure. I sat up, heart pounding, and checked my watch. 3 a.m. local time. The habitat should be silent except for the steady whisper of life support. The hum continued, rhythmic and deliberate. Not mechanical. Not natural. Something else entirely. I pulled on my jumpsuit and made my way to the common area. Lieutenant Chen was already there, standing at the window, staring out into the darkness beyond our lights. You hear it too? I asked quietly. She nodded without turning. Started about 10 minutes ago. I thought I was imagining it at first. Where's it coming from? That's the thing. She finally looked at me, her face pale in the dim emergency lighting. It's coming from below us. Before I could respond, Commander Price emerged from his quarters, followed closely by Dr. Reeves. The commander's expression was grave. We need to talk, he said. All of us. Now. We gathered around the central table, the hum continuing its steady, unnerving pulse beneath us. Commander Price pulled out a tablet, entered a long security code, and opened a file marked with classification levels I'd never seen before. This mission isn't what you were told, he began, his voice heavy with reluctance. Project Darkwatch isn't about geological research or equipment testing. It's a reconnaissance mission. NASA has known about the structures beneath the moon's dark side since Apollo 17. My blood ran cold. What? The Apollo crews detected anomalies. Seismic readings that didn't match any known geological formations. Electromagnetic signatures that suggested artificial construction. All of it was classified immediately. Why? Dr. Reeves demanded, anger flashing in his eyes. Why keep this secret? Because they didn't know what they were dealing with. The decision was made at the highest levels to wait. To develop better technology, to prepare before making contact. Commander Price's jaw tightened. We're that preparation. We were sent here to investigate, to determine if the structures pose a threat. And you didn't think to tell us? Lieutenant Chen's voice shook with fury and fear. You brought us here blind. I was following orders. I didn't know the full scope until we landed. Price looked at each of us in turn. But there's more. The communication disruption isn't accidental. Houston is jamming us deliberately. The words hung in the air, impossible and terrifying. Why would they do that? I asked, though part of me already knew the answer. Because something has changed. The structures below us have been dormant for millions of years. But our presence here has triggered something. Houston detected it before we did. They're keeping us isolated because they don't want whatever happens next to be transmitted back to Earth. They're using us as guinea pigs, Dr. Reeves said flatly. Commander Price didn't deny it. The hum suddenly increased in intensity, making the habitat structure tremble. Equipment rattled on shelves. Liquid sloshed in containers. We all froze, staring at each other with widening eyes. Then, as abruptly as it intensified, the hum stopped. The silence that followed was even worse. We need to go down there, I heard myself say. Whatever's beneath us, we need to see it with our own eyes. That's suicide, Lieutenant Chen protested. We have no idea what we're dealing with. We're dead either way, Dr. Reeves countered. If Houston has abandoned us, our supplies won't last 6 months. And something tells me whatever's down there won't wait that long. Commander Price studied the seismic data on his tablet, his finger tracing the outline of the largest underground chamber. There's an entrance point here, about half a kilometer from our position. A natural shaft that intersects with the tunnel system. He looked up, meeting each of our eyes. Dr. Webb is right. If we're going to survive this, we need to understand what we're facing. The decision was made. We spent the next 2 days preparing for the descent. Lieutenant Chen rigged portable power packs and high-intensity lights. Dr. Reeves studied the seismic data obsessively, mapping the safest route through the underground network. I compiled every piece of data we had on the anomalies, looking for patterns, for anything that might tell us what we were about to face. Commander Price tried repeatedly to contact Houston, but the jamming continued. During what should have been our transmission windows, we received only one message, distorted and barely comprehensible: do not proceed below surface. Maintain position. Contamination protocols in effect. Contamination protocols. I repeated, feeling ice in my veins. What does that mean? Price's expression was grim. It means they're prepared to quarantine the entire site. Maybe permanently. On the 3rd day, we suited up and left the habitat. The 4 of us loaded into the lunar rover, our lights cutting through the absolute darkness as we navigated across the crater floor. The entrance shaft Dr. Reeves had identified was a narrow fissure in the rock, barely wide enough for the rover. We parked at the edge and continued on foot, our suit lights bobbing in the blackness as we descended into the moon. The fissure opened into a larger tunnel, the walls smooth and regular in a way that confirmed Dr. Reeves's assessment: these weren't natural formations. Look at this, he said, running his gloved hand along the wall. Even through our helmet radios, I could hear the awe in his voice. These are tool marks. Something carved these tunnels. How long ago? Lieutenant Chen asked. Based on the regolith penetration into the upper levels, millions of years. Maybe tens of millions. We continued deeper, our lights revealing impossible architecture. The tunnels branched and intersected with geometric precision. Alcoves carved into the walls held objects we couldn't identify, their purpose mysterious. Some surfaces bore markings that might have been writing, symbols that hurt to look at too long, as if they existed at angles that human perception couldn't quite process. We're not alone down here, Commander Price said suddenly, his voice tight. I followed his gaze and felt my breath catch. In the darkness beyond our lights, something moved. Not the jerky, mechanical movement of equipment or the natural shift of settling rock. This was fluid, purposeful, intelligent. Fall back, Price ordered. Slowly. Don't make any sudden. The tunnel behind us collapsed. Not a natural collapse. Deliberate. Controlled. Sealing us in. Move forward. Price shouted, and we ran, stumbling over uneven ground, our suit lights swinging wildly. Behind us, I heard it, a sound like grinding stone mixed with something organic, something alive. The thing in the darkness was following us. We burst into a massive chamber, and my legs nearly gave out from what I saw. The space was easily 200 meters across, the ceiling lost in shadows above us. But it wasn't the size that stopped me cold. It was what filled the chamber. Structures. Buildings. An entire complex of architecture so alien, so fundamentally wrong, that my brain struggled to process the geometry. Towers that seemed to exist in too many dimensions. Bridges that connected points in space that shouldn't have been connectable. And at the center of it all, a massive obelisk pulsing with a faint, sickly blue light. "My God," Dr. Reeves whispered. "This is a city. An entire city beneath the moon's dark side." The obelisk's pulsing increased, and with it came a sound. Not a hum this time, but something closer to a voice. Multiple voices. Thousands of them, overlapping and discordant, speaking in languages that had never been human. Lieutenant Chen grabbed my arm, pointing. Around the perimeter of the chamber, things were emerging from the shadows. Tall, impossibly thin figures that moved with an eerie, insect-like grace. They had no faces that I could see, just smooth, dark surfaces where heads should be. But I felt them watching us. Studying us. "They're not hostile," Commander Price said, his voice surprisingly steady. "If they wanted us dead, we'd already be dead." "Then what do they want?" I asked, unable to tear my eyes away from the approaching figures. "Contact," a voice said behind us. We spun around. One of the figures stood directly behind us, close enough to touch. When it spoke again, the voice came not from any visible mouth, but directly into our helmet radios, perfectly clear and unmistakably English. "You have come at last. We have waited so very long." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Who are you?" "We are the custodians. The watchers. The ones who came before." The figure tilted its head in what might have been curiosity. "Your species has finally evolved sufficiently to find us. To understand, perhaps, why we remain here in the darkness." "Why?" Dr. Reeves asked. "Why build all this? Why stay hidden? We do not hide. We guard." The figure gestured toward the obelisk. "What lies within that structure is older than your sun, more dangerous than your species can comprehend. We were tasked, eons ago, to ensure it remained dormant. Sealed away from the light, from detection, from those who might foolishly attempt to use its power." "What is it?" Commander Price demanded. "A weapon. A key. A doorway. All of these and more." The figure's voice carried a weight of infinite sadness. "It was forged by civilizations that rose and fell before your planet even had life upon its surface. Wars were fought for its possession. Worlds were destroyed by its use. Eventually, the survivors agreed, it must be contained, hidden where no one would think to look. The moon's dark side," I breathed. "A world with no life, no atmosphere. No reason for anyone to venture to its darkest regions. And we, the custodians, volunteered to remain here. To watch. To wait. To ensure the weapon stayed dormant." The figure moved closer, and I felt a chill despite my suit's heating systems. "But your kind has grown curious. Bold. You have sent missions to explore the darkness. And with each mission, with each incursion, you risk awakening what must remain asleep." "We didn't know," Lieutenant Chen said. "Nobody told us. Some of your leaders know. They have known since your first astronauts detected our presence. They were warned. They were told to stay away." The figure's voice grew harder. "Yet still you came. Still you sent missions. Still you dug deeper into the darkness, drawn by the very thing you should fear most." "Commander Price," Dr. Reeves said slowly. "Did Houston know about this? About them? About the weapon?" Price's silence was answer enough. "You knew," I said, betrayal and rage mixing in my chest. "You knew what we were walking into. I knew there was something here. I didn't know what. Price's voice cracked. They told me it was reconnaissance. They told me we'd be safe. I swear, I didn't know. Your commander speaks truth, the custodian interrupted. He was given only fragments, pieces of a larger puzzle. Your leaders did not trust him with the full knowledge. They feared he might refuse the mission. The figure turned its smooth, featureless face toward me. But you, Dr. Webb. You have specialized in stellar phenomena, in the detection of anomalous signals from deep space. Why do you think you were chosen for this mission? My mouth went dry. I don't understand. The weapon is not dormant. Not anymore. It has been sending signals. Calling out across the void. Your leaders detected these transmissions. They needed someone who could analyze them, decipher them. Someone who could tell them if the weapon was truly awakening. The obelisk's pulsing intensified. The blue light now bright enough to cast shadows. The other custodians drew closer, forming a ring around us. It is awakening, the custodian continued. Your presence here accelerates the process. The weapon recognizes intelligent life. It seeks to be used. It whispers promises of power, of knowledge, of capabilities beyond imagination. This is how it has always functioned. This is how it has always corrupted. Then we'll leave, Lieutenant Chen said quickly. We'll go back to the surface, return to Earth, seal off the moon's dark side forever. Too late. The custodian gestured toward the obelisk. The weapon has already touched your minds. It has shown you glimpses of what it offers. Even now, part of you wants to approach it. To claim its power. It was right. Despite my terror, despite everything I'd seen, there was a pull. A whisper at the edge of my consciousness, promising understanding, promising answers to questions I'd spent my life pursuing. I saw the same hunger reflected in my crewmates' eyes. This is how worlds fall, the custodian said softly. This is how civilizations end. One person, convinced they can control what has never been controlled. One moment of weakness, of ambition, of curiosity. And then, extinction. What do we do? I asked, fighting against the pull. How do we stop it? You cannot. Only we can contain it, and our power wanes. We have maintained the seals for millions of your years, but we are finite. The weapon is eternal. Eventually, it will break free. And when it does, it will call out to others of its kind, scattered across the galaxy. Beacons of destruction, waiting to be claimed. Commander Price stepped forward. Then let us help. Tell us what you need. We can warn Earth, prepare them. Your Earth already knows, the custodian interrupted. Why do you think they jammed your communications? Why do you think they sent you here to die? The words hit like a physical blow. They needed to know for certain that the weapon was awakening. You were their test. Their sacrifice. When you do not return, when your mission is listed as lost, your leaders will implement their contingency plan. Which is? Dr. Reeves asked, though I think we all knew the answer. Destruction. They will claim a catastrophic equipment failure, perhaps a reactor meltdown. They will bombard this site from orbit, collapse these tunnels, bury the weapon deeper beneath lunar rock and regolith. It will buy time. Perhaps decades. Perhaps centuries. But eventually, someone else will dig deep enough. Someone else will find it. I felt numb. You're saying we're dead either way. I am saying your mission was always a death sentence. Your leaders chose sacrifice over risk. For lives to buy time for billions. There has to be another way, Lieutenant Chen pleaded. The custodian was silent for a long moment. The obelisk pulsed, and I swear I heard voices within that light, calling my name, offering me everything I'd ever wanted to know about the universe. There is one possibility, the custodian finally said. You could take our place. What? Price stared at the figure. We are dying. Our kind was never meant to live this long, to maintain vigil for eternity. But the seals require constant attention, constant reinforcement. If you were to join with us, to merge your consciousness with ours, you could help maintain the barriers. You would no longer be human, not in any way that matters. But you would save your species. For a time. The chamber fell silent except for the pulse of the obelisk. I looked at my crewmates, saw the horror and understanding in their eyes. How long? Commander Price asked quietly. Until the weapon inevitably breaks free. Or until your species evolves sufficiently to truly understand what they face. Whichever comes first. Price turned to us. I can't order you to do this. This has to be a choice. We're dead anyway, Dr. Reeves said. At least this way, it means something. Lieutenant Chen nodded slowly. My family, will they know? They will be told you died heroes, the custodian said. It will not be untrue. I thought of Earth, of the billions of people going about their lives, unaware of the horror lurking in the darkness. I thought of my sister, my nieces, and nephews. I thought of a future they might have if we succeeded. If we bought them time. I'll do it, I heard myself say. One by one, the others agreed. The custodians moved closer, their forms seeming to dissolve into shadow and light. The last thing I remember as a fully human consciousness was the obelisk's pulse synchronizing with my heartbeat, and a voice that was both ancient and eternal saying, "Welcome, Guardians. Welcome to the Long Watch. Time has no meaning here. I exist in the darkness beneath the moon's dark side, neither fully alive nor truly dead. My consciousness has merged with thousands of others, all of us bound together by a single purpose, keep the weapon contained. Sometimes, I can sense the surface world above. I feel the vibrations when spacecraft land. I hear the chatter of radio signals. Each new mission to the moon's dark side is a risk, a chance that someone will dig too deep, come too close. But so far, the seals hold. Houston did exactly what the custodians predicted. Our mission was declared lost, a tragic reactor failure. Our families mourned. Earth moved on. But I remain. We remain. The last defense against something that should never be unleashed. Sometimes, in moments of clarity, I wonder if anyone on Earth suspects the truth. If anyone questions why missions to the moon's dark side are so carefully controlled, so deliberately limited. I wonder if my sister looks up at the moon and thinks of me, never knowing I'm still here, still watching, still protecting her and everyone else from a threat they'll hopefully never have to face. The weapon whispers constantly, promises and threats in equal measure. It knows we're weakening. It knows that one day, maybe in a decade, maybe in a millennium, the seals will fail. And when they do, the custodians will need to be replaced. Earth will need to send more volunteers, more sacrifices to the darkness. That's my real purpose in breaking silence, in sending out this message. When the time comes, when the seals begin to fail again, humanity will need to be ready. They'll need to understand that the moon's dark side holds more than rocks and shadows. They'll need volunteers willing to give up everything to continue the watch. Because if the weapon awakens fully, if it breaks free and calls to its siblings scattered across the stars, extinction won't be a possibility. It will be inevitable. So I watch. I wait. I maintain the seals with the others who chose to stay. And I pray that when Earth discovers the truth, they'll make the same choice we did. The darkness of the moon's dark side is eternal. And now, so am I. If you're reading this, if NASA hasn't already suppressed this testimony, then no, the conspiracy theorists were right. There are secrets on the moon. Secrets that would shatter everything you think you know about humanity's place in the universe. And the greatest secret of all. We're not the first species to face this choice. And we won't be the last. Stay vigilant. Stay skeptical. And whatever you do, never stop asking questions about what really lies in the darkness beyond the light. Because sometimes, the monsters are real. And sometimes, the only thing standing between them and you is someone like me, trapped forever in the shadows, ensuring you never have to know the truth.